Welcome to the deep dive. If you've ever walked through Hong Kong's Admiralty district, all gleaming glass, soaring steel, and this intense commercial energy, you might think it's a purely 21st century creation.
But you would be so wrong.
So wrong. The foundations of Admiralty conceal these five incredible stories of conflict, of profound paradox, and some really crucial ethical trade-offs that, they basically dictate how the city functions today.
Absolutely. Admiralty, or Kam Chung, is so much more than just a financial extension of Central. It's the city's administrative heart. It's a modern power axis where three major rail lines converge.
But its origin story is one of total isolation and really military erasure.
Yeah, we're talking about land that was actively, off limits to the public for more than a century.
And the naming is the very first clue to that history, isn't it? The English name Admiralty.
Right.
It's purely a declaration of British naval authority. It's referencing the Admiralty Dock and the former HMS Tamar Naval Base. The name just screams colonial military dominance.
And yet, the Chinese name, Kam Chung, meaning Golden Bell, it gives you this localized, tangible counterpoint. It didn't refer to some abstract concept of nobility. It was a literal brass, maybe gold-plated warning bell.
A real bell.
A real bell, historically situated right near the old Victoria Barracks around where Garden Road is now.
So you had this massive abstract naval power structure operating right next to a bell whose ringing was a physical, a sonic marker telling every citizen, stop here. This is the boundary of the military restricted zone.
Precisely. And that dual identity, the abstract colonial authority versus the immediate physical boundary, that really sets the stage for our mission today. We are going to unpack 5 unique dimensions of Admiralty's transformation.
We're looking at that rapid shift from military island to a commercial titan and what Hong Kong decided it was willing to sacrifice.
And what it absolutely had to preserve.
Exactly. When the city began its most ambitious project.
Let's start with that foundational sacrifice, the disappearance of the fence.
Right. Before the 1970s, Admiralty was essentially this desolate, fenced-off military power enclave, the sprawling grounds of the Victoria Barracks. It just lacked the complicated, dense human community history of its neighbors like Wan Chai or Central.
And that fact, the absence of deep civilian roots, that was the city's key to its rapid urban expansion. By the mid-1970s, Central was completely saturated.
Nowhere left to build.
Nowhere. So the government launched this very deliberate and highly systematic land repositioning plan. They reclaimed land, they built the MTR, and then they sold off these large, clean parcels of land incredibly quickly.
And the speed of this structural and geographical metamorphosis is just stunning. It went from a quiet, grassy military zone to one of the world's most expensive commercial and administrative cores in less than 30 years.
It's an architectural triumph of functionalism.
It really is.
It's the ultimate statement of Hong Kong's functionalist principle, that efficiency and, infrastructural necessity will almost always override historical continuity. The city decided the economic utility of this land was just exponentially greater.
Greater than its utility as a quiet military preserve.
And the critical moment in cementing Admiralty's new identity was that multi-phase development that really redefined human flow, specifically the development of Pacific Place.
Ah, yes.
That complex combined high-end retail, luxury hotels, and prestigious office space. It literally drew human traffic away from traditional Central, cementing Admiralty as the new center of gravitational pull.
The MTR connection was obviously vital, but Pacific Place added that necessary element of human density.
Absolutely. And if you want to trace the ghost of that erased military boundary, you really need to step off the major thoroughfares.
Exactly. For those of you exploring the area, the contrast is so stark. We'd recommend taking a reflective walk down Kennedy Road. That stretch runs along what used to be the periphery of the military camp. You'll still find preserved colonial-era buildings and this incredibly dense established tree cover. It allows you to feel the quietude of that old military edge.
And then contrast it with the roar of the modern core, just, steps away.
Yeah, it's jarring. And if you want to see the literal geographical shift in power, walk along the Central and Western District Promenade.
Yes. When you stand there, you can visually trace how massive land reclamation projects literally swallowed up the HMS Tamar Naval Base, shifting the actual coastline.
And with it, the economic and political center of power.
The land you're standing on is built right on top of the military's vanished harbor presence.
That's a powerful image. The city quite literally paved over its military past for profit and function.
A conscious choice and a highly efficient one.
Which brings us to our second story, a moment where that efficiency hit a major legal roadblock. This happened during the construction of Pacific Place, a project defined by sheer capital gain.
Right.
When they encountered a 140-year-old Ficus microcarpa, a massive banyan tree with a breathtaking 30-meter-wide canopy.
This is a legendary story, and it just flips the script completely from the land reclamation. Unlike the military base, the fate of this tree was not up for negotiation at all.
How?
The source material reveals that the land sale contract explicitly stipulated that this ancient tree could not be moved or harmed.
So conservation wasn't just an ethical nicety or some PR move.
Not at all. It became a non-negotiable legal and economic mandate. And that contractual constraint forced one of the most absurd but also wonderful engineering solutions in Hong Kong history.
The financial cost to comply must have been huge.
It was staggering. The developer had to spend over 24 million Hong Kong dollars to be precise. HK $23,890,227.
Wow. 24 million.
Simply to preserve one tree while simultaneously, driving maximum profit from the site. This was a record-breaking conservation price tag at the time.
I mean, that is an incredible commitment. But what did the engineering actually entail? Why so much money?
Well, they had to build this colossal retaining structure, an 18-meter-long and 10-meter-deep concrete chamber. People started calling it the giant flower pot.
A giant flower pot.
Exactly. This structure was necessary to protect the tree's complex root system, allowing them to continue building multi-story underground shopping malls and parking garages beneath the tree without undermining its life support.
That detail is phenomenal. It shows this immense, relentless drive for capital gain, literally having to contort itself and yield to a piece of contractually defined nature.
It wasn't a moral victory. It was a legal enforcement of ecological ethics. It was an expensive reconciliation. It proves the absolute, unquestionable power of contract law in this hyper-commercial environment.
So if you want to understand this paradox, you have to go stand beneath it.
You really do.
You must visit the Pacific Place Wrong Garden and just gaze up at that ancient banyan. It is one of the city's most resilient symbols.
It resisted the capital flood by forcing the engineers to work around it. It reminds you that efficiency and the slow pace of nature can coexist.
But only when mandated by law.
It forces you to reflect on what is truly immovable in this city. Sometimes it's not history or culture. It's a specific clause in a land contract.
Now let's transition from the resilience of nature under contract to the resilience of a symbol under tyranny. We're talking about the symbol of law in the district. The Court of Final Appeal building.
A magnificent 1912 neoclassical structure. It's famous for its statue of the blindfolded goddess of justice.
It's the physical embodiment of the rule of law. But this structure, representing the highest ideal of impartiality and fairness, it carries this dark history that reflects the fragility of justice when power changes hands violently.
The betrayal of this symbol is truly shocking.
It is. During the WWII Japanese occupation from 1941 to 1945, this exact building, the Supreme Court at the time, was seized and repurposed as the Japanese Kempeitai military police headquarters.
The gravity of that symbolic inversion is just. It's hard to overstate. The building intended to dispense impartial justice became the operational center of military atrocities, arbitrary rule, and the systematic suppression of liberty.
It was profaned.
Completely.
It makes you wonder how a community recovers from that level of symbolic betrayal. I mean, did they leave it vacant as a reminder?
Quite the opposite. And what's truly striking is the speed and the intensity of the collective restoration. Immediately following the surrender in August 1945, the structure was almost instantly and swiftly restored to its original function as the Supreme Court.
So there was this intense societal need to physically reclaim and immediately maintain that legal symbol post-tyranny.
A visceral dependence, almost, on the concept of the rule of law. The structure's history reveals the material fragility of justice. It can be seized and corrupted, but also the strong resilience of the legal spirit demanding its immediate return.
So if you're standing outside the CFA building today, you should look closely at the granite and red brick structure and just reflect on that period, how it recovered from being the center of military tyranny to once again becoming a pillar of justice.
And for a comparison, consider the Asia Society Hong Kong Center, which is located nearby.
Right. That facility was converted from the old Victoria Barracks Armory.
Both sites show a transformation from military power, but one was a clean, functional conversion. The other, the CFA, was a profound, required act of spiritual restoration. And that distinction between conversion and restoration is key to understanding the city's priorities.
Speaking of military history, let's move to another point of collision between past and present. The MTR expansion beneath Harcourt Garden.
This is a big one. This modern infrastructure project, driven by hyper-efficiency, it literally struck history.
During the excavation for the MTR extension, workers discovered significant relics, remnants of a centuries-old seawall and, crucially, the Wellington Battery.
And this battery was a foundational colonial military defense structure built close to the coast. It represented the material memory of the city's inception as a fortress.
So you had this invaluable historical evidence directly conflicting with the MTR's imperative for immediate deep underground construction. And the outcome was, well, it was intensely controversial.
It led to a major conflict. Conservationists accused the MTR and the Antiquities Office of prioritization and concealment, arguing that the physical evidence of the city's origin was being willfully destroyed.
And what was the MTR's defense?
It was pure practicalism, rooted in engineering constraints. They argued that the seawall fragments they found were broken and discontinuous.
Okay.
More importantly, they stated that physical on-site preservation was strictly impossible due to critical safety standards and the engineering requirements of building a massive metro tunnel. The guiding principle was unapologetically efficiency first.
Meaning the historic military defense, the foundational memory of the city, was not preserved physically.
No, it was only given the treatment of recording the discovery.
Which really reveals this powerful, defining urban principle of Hong Kong, doesn't it? When faced with infrastructure-first practicalism, the material evidence of history is just extremely vulnerable.
It's often sacrificed. And the question posed to the city, and to you, the listener, is sharp. Does recording truly equal preservation? And what is the unseen cost of this hyper-efficiency when you sacrifice tangible history?
When you are in Admiralty, we really encourage you to stand in Harcourt Garden. Realize that this modern manicured public space is floating right above the remnants of the city's original military foundation.
It's a permanent, though buried, reminder of where practical choices overruled historical reverence. The MTR tunnel below is a physical testament to that sacrifice.
It's the sound of the bulldozer silencing the cannon.
Precisely.
Our final story brings us to the newest core area, the massive green space adjacent to the government offices, the Tamar site.
Right. Tamar Park, 17,000 square meters. It was designed by the government with the explicit intention of being a perpetual green space. It was meant to be a neutral, calming public buffer for the administrative center.
That was the government's desired spatial intention. Tranquil, orderly, non-confrontational.
But public space is not defined by its designer's intention. It's defined by spatial practice. And the meaning of that park was radically redefined by its users.
This space became the central stage for the 79-day umbrella movement, beginning in late 2014. Roads like Harcourt Road and Tim May Avenue alongside Tamar Park were instantly transformed into what became known as Umbrella City.
The sources offer such vivid details of this transformation. What were once high-speed traffic arteries and manicured lawns became these massive, highly organized tent encampments.
And citizens created this unique, temporary, utopian social atmosphere right next to the center of government. They weren't just protesting, they were governing themselves. They built temporary libraries, waste sorting facilities, study areas.
All juxtaposed against the initial harsh reality. We know 87 canisters of tear gas were deployed there on September 28th alone.
So this quiet administrative vista, intended to be a neutral landscape, was transformed by civic energy into a massive carrier of intense contemporary political expression.
Convenience stores became 24-hour supply stations for the movement, and the Admiralty MTR station, the heart of the city's mobility, was repeatedly closed to manage the crowds.
This site perfectly embodies that massive discrepancy between the government's desire for a neutral administrative landscape and the community's activation of that space for direct political action.
The center of power was instantaneously made the epicenter of dissent and civic life.
We encourage you to walk through Tamar Park and Tim May Avenue today. When you see that tranquil harbor view, remember its identity shift from a governmental buffer to a stage for one of the most intense, organized, and sustained civic protests in the city's history.
It's a space that continues to hold that immense political charge.
What a profound journey through Admiralty. It's a district defined not by its appearance of newness, but by these deep cycles of construction, erasure, efficiency, and these continuous ethical trade-offs.
And when we synthesize these 5 narratives, the paradoxes are just unmistakable. We saw how material military history, the seawall and the Wellington Battery, was sacrificed for maximum infrastructural efficiency.
But then, just mere steps away, we saw nature, the ancient banyan tree, protected at a vast financial cost.
But not because of moral sentiment, but due to absolute unyielding legal commitment.
And we saw the vulnerability of institutional symbols, with the court of final appeal being profaned by the Kempeitai, immediately followed by the society's intense, rapid restoration of that symbol.
It underscores the resilience of the legal spirit.
So the sound of the golden bell is no longer a military alarm marking a restricted zone.
No. Today, the golden bell symbolizes the city's constant internal voice, a voice of ethical self-reflection on what truly cannot be sacrificed. Contractual commitment, the rule of law, and the fundamental right to civic expression.
We looked at a city that's constantly weighing practicality against principle. So considering these 5 layers of history we discussed, which choice do you think better defines the core spirit of the modern metropolis?
Is it sacrificing the cannon for hyper-efficiency?
Or is it spending $24 million to save an ancient tree because of a contract?
The answer you choose really reveals what you value most in your own urban environment. And that's what makes Admiralty such a fascinating place to study.
Thank you for diving deep with us into the paradoxes of Admiralty. We hope you look at that beautiful skyline a little differently next time.